certain things up. A clear stiletto mobile phone holder with pink fur on it, flashes pink and green. I think people know that you are
not
gay.
listening. In this book, listen, right? In this book, little tips and stuff. So one here about if your dog keeps nicking a remote control.
Sure.
The way to get it off it, ring the doorbell. Right, so you got to get off your chair, go and ring the doorbell, so the dog goes, what's that? And it drops the remote control, goes running to the door, you run back and pick it up.
I love the idea of Carl doing that, and then the doorbell goes, and Carl drops it and goes, and it's the dog pressing the doorbell, and it sits back down, and Carl going, oh no, not again.
I mean, I really do want... Can't I just have this?
You excited by that, are you?
It's brilliant.
What about this one, though, that you mentioned? This is a book which has got all those urban legends and stories that you've read on the internet, and it tells you whether they're real or not. This has got the one in there. I know you're very excited about the one with the woman who stuck her head in the microwave.
Yeah.
Eh?
Right.
It's not all right. So basically, she's saying here that whenever Ricky says, "Oh, it's not true," you can dispute that with your book.
Yeah. What do you think then, Carl? Do you want to have a think about all these gifts?
There's so much stuff, isn't there?
Should we play a record and then come back?
Have
you found something you like in there?
You're so undecided, Carl.
I really like this book.
Go on, and what is it? What else you found? What tip?
God, there's loads of stuff in here. Let's just pick one at random. Don't be too tidy. Leave some areas for helpful garden animals to hide in. So when you're cleaning your garden and that, you know, it might look a bit of a mess, but think about the animals that are walking about at night in the dark and stuff.
Yeah.
Just little things you don't think about.
Yeah, because they're pointless.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's play a record.
Carl, there's so many to decide on.
Yeah.
Alright, what are we playing, Steve?
This is something from a little compilation that came free with a magazine called Comes With a Smile. It's a good little magazine. And this is by Matt Pond, PA. It's called Night's End. It's not... I suppose there's a little bit of New Country, which we don't play often, but there's some nice tracks floating about, and that's Matt Pond, PA, Night's End.
Well, I'm getting very sad now. 10 minutes to go, and so much to cram in. Now, thing is, Carl's fallen in love with that book, but I feel a bit bad letting a friend sort of win when all these lovely people, these regular listeners, so I don't think you can have that. But I'll tell you what, I'll borrow that, or I'll buy it for you, so you can have that anyway. What have
that's
you
safe,
found
you're going home with that.
Avoid washing up by boiling the bag food.
See, I could see why you'd love that.
Exactly.
Is there anything out? What other things have you caught your eye though? Put that book down. Yeah, go on.
Well,
one of our regular listeners who actually wants the bag and wants to be part of your life. Come on.
Well, Richard emailed in, right? And he's got a book which is similar to the one I like there.
Yeah.
Which has got like 180 stories in it. Some, I mean, most of them are like true, I think. Do you know I was telling you that story about the woman who put her head in the oven to dry her hair?
Yeah.
Because she liked the way...
And she boiled her brain.
Yeah, she stuck it in a microwave.
Avoid washing your hair by boiling the brain bags.
So she put her head in the microwave?
Yeah.
And boiled her brains?
And boiled her brains, because she thought she'd get the same result as she did from the oven, but it all went wrong and that. And
what do you mean? She used to dry hair in the oven? And she just, like, went modern?
Apparently, it's like what punks used to do. You get a different sort of heat off an oven than you do off a hairdryer, right?
Sure.
So, she thought, well, I'll do it in half the time, use a microwave.
Sure.
She
was busy,
I don't understand how you can get your head in a microwave. It only works when the door closes.
Yeah, but you jam the little thing, don't you?
Well, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't tell. I don't think it's possible, but don't.
Of course it is.
Yeah, well,
anyway,
don't
but
do that.
He remembers that story and said, I've got a book full of stuff like that. And he sort of sums up a little story that's in the book about this girl who, she had long hair, right? And she used to always mess around with it. And she's sucking on it. Do you know, like how girls do with it and stuff?
Yeah.
And she's sucking on it all the time. And she was doing this from the age of, like, 10. And then, I don't know, she's probably about 30-odd. And she's doing this all the time.
Guessing.
And she goes, oh, God, my belly's hurting today, ma'am. And she goes, oh, what's wrong with you? She said, I don't know.
You're 30?
Yeah. So she goes to the doctors, and the doctors do an x-ray, and nothing's coming up, and it's like, I don't know what's wrong with you, you know, you're just being a bit moany about nothing. She's like, no, honestly.
He's a very intolerant doctor.
Yeah.
She said, this is...
Piss off.
This is really hurting, I don't know what's up with it. So anyway, they found out some sort of system of looking at what was going on.
Yeah.
And
X-rays?
No, it wasn't X-ray, because X-ray didn't show it up.
Okay.
It was something else. So, anyway, it's only gone and turned into, like, she's been sucking her hair for so many years that little bits had come off. She's got a giant air ball in her belly.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
which was like huge, the size of a rat or something like that, right? The size of a...
It's so interesting what he chose. The size of a rat.
No. Well, the funny thing is, when they eventually got it out,
Yeah.
the mum was like, you know, oh God, it was terrible. And she actually said it looked like a dead rat.
Oh, right.
And it was in her belly, and that's like what was causing all the pain.
Sure.
And apparently your belly acids don't kill hares because they're so fine it can't handle it.
Yes.
Right. So
I
you
reckon
go for that book, are you?
that's the one I want,
Who's the
yeah.
winner then? Who's the winner of the lovely BAFTA
What's his
bag?
name there? Richard Scholar, is it, or something?
Yeah, Richard, Scular or Scowler
Yeah.
or something. So
He's-
he's the winner. So check it out. You're going to get that book coming to you. I'll borrow this book for you.
I need an email within like 5 working days to sort of.
So what's your
clarify.
email?
It's carl.pilkington@xfm.co.uk.
Okay, lovely.
I want an email from this guy, and I won't be sending the bag out until I receive the goods.
Okay, right, good.
enough.
Well, we've only got a few minutes. I want to play Suede and I want to end with the Smiths track. So let's play this.
What is it?
Suede, Stay Together. Lovely track. My favourite Suede track of all time there. Well, we're oh, that's nearly it, Carl. Right, what's your last Room 101?
Oh God, it was holidays.
Holidays.
Well,
You want to put holidays in room 101?
people who are sort of annoying on holiday.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know when you go away?
Oh, yeah.
We've sort of touched on this before.
Is this going to be the Scouse guy?
Yeah.
Go on.
Oh, it's so long though. I mean, it was a holiday when we went to Tunisia.
And the Scouser pissed you off. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the annoying thing was, you know, when you go on it was a cheap holiday, and like the lesson here is, you know, if you want a good holiday, you got to like spend some money.
Yeah.
And we didn't on this one. We spent about, I don't know, 400 quid for 2 of us for like a month or something ridiculous. And we got there, and you know, you get to the hotel and you go, we have made a mistake. You know, it's a ropey hotel. You know, you can tell like the blinds and stuff as you walk in, they're all dirty and stuff. And you think, well, let's make the most of it. You know, let's not get down about it. It's a holiday. It's for a rest. And you try and make the most of it. And we had to meet. You know, like you have one of those things where you get to your destination and the rep says, right, you know, go and unpack your bags and that. Go and sort yourself out in the room. And tomorrow morning we'll meet up at 10 o'clock. And I'll go through, you know, the best sort of place to go for camel rides and, you know, the best deals I can get you. That sort of thing.
Can anyone here walk like an Egyptian?
So she says, right, tomorrow morning, meet 10 o'clock in the discotheque. So we get up and we have breakfast, and it wasn't a good breakfast. The kitchen was, like, bit horrible. The food wasn't good. And it was run by sort of midgets.
What do you mean it was run? Not there's anything wrong with that.
There was little fellas running around, and the annoying thing was one of them sort of started to fancy my girlfriend.
How did he manifest his affection
No,
for
you're
her?
not saying there's anything wrong with midgets, though, are you? Just
No,
saying it
no,
was
not at
strange that
all.
there was
Yeah,
a
but
lot-
even midgets shouldn't be cutting in on Carl Pilkington's
No,
territory.
I know.
But it's also that thing of, you know, they've got little fingers, and it
Oh,
sort of
God, I'm
ruined...
so sorry.
No, I'm not. It is a bit of a phobia of mine.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? They are nice people and that.
Sure. Oh, God.
But the annoying thing is...
So what was he doing then? How did he... I don't understand how he was chatting up your girlfriend. Was he crawling under the table so you couldn't see?
He just kept...
Whispering to her from underneath there.
Stop it.
Just sort of, you know...
Wait, I don't want to get a complaint on our last show.
There's not many midgets
What's
listening.
going to happen? Can we just finish this and start up again in a couple of months?
Oh, yeah. So if you want to know more about the midget theme restaurants,
Bit of a
then
teaser, isn't it?
just we'll talk you in 3 months.
Yeah.
It's just...
Oh.
It's just...
No, that's fair enough, actually.
Oh
No, you're
yeah,
absolutely
no,
right,
sorry
Carl.
about
That's your
this.
producer's
Listen,
head on.
we'll see you in about a really. It's been a pleasure, truly, and thank you for
I've
everyone
got-
that wrote
I've got you a couple
letters.
of presents.
Have you really?
Yeah.
I've got you both a present, right?
Oh,
I got Ricky, do you know, like, we've done fables and
Yeah,
stuff? Right?
yeah.
This is like Mr. Ben. This is
oh,
brilliant,
yeah.
right? And it's like little fables that Mr. Ben goes on.
Oh, fantastic.
So I want you to learn something from that for when you come back.
Okay, brilliant. That's lovely,
I'll tell you one
Carl.
of the stories I read this morning. It's brilliant. In fact, when you've done with it,
Yeah,
give it me.
Yeah.
Because I haven't finished reading that.
okay. Thank you, Carl.
And for Steve, a little
Oh,
chat up lines.
A little book of chat-up lines.
that's fantastic.
Carl.
Well, we'll see you in 3 months. But carry on emailing Carl. Cherish Carl Pilkington. He sits in a little room by himself, so keep him in touch. And we'll see you in August. We're going to leave you with some of the we all love. This is There Is a Light That Never Goes Out by the Smiths. Very apt, I think. Goodbye.
See you later.
Take me out tonight.
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply.
What?
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Well, hi there. Thanks for joining us. This is Thinking Sideways, and I'm Steve. As always, I'm joined by my co-hosts,
Joe.
And Devin.
And this week we're going to talk about something a little different, which, by the way, seems to now be my MO.
That's something
Yeah,
different.
you're talking about the weird crap these
I'm
days.
pulling out some kind of strange things, and I don't know why I've been on that, but...
I think you're tired of talking about murders.
But this is an unsolved
aliens?
mystery, which we are going to
aliens.
solve.
Well,
So,
yeah, we're going to definitively solve this one, as Joe would say.
Yeah. We'll
What
crack
mis-
it open like a walnut.
What mystery is that? Fairies.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to solve fairies.
You guys, really though,
Really?
this isn't a joke.
No. This is not an April Fool's joke because, well, April was a couple of months ago.
And you realize that if fairies do exist and they hear this podcast,
I am on the list.
We're going to wake up with horses' heads in our beds or something like that.
Tiny horse heads.
Little tiny unicorn heads.
Yeah. Like sea unicorns' heads. You know,
It'd be kind of ironic if they sent that threatening signal to us, and we woke up in the morning, sort of just brushed it off onto the floor and never noticed it.
Oh, we're gonna die a tiny death.
Oh.
All right. Well, let's get into the story. The story is, and I don't know if either of you saw it when it happened or any of our listeners, but in April, a series of photos started going around that were claiming to have captured images of fairies on film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a set of photographs. It was taken by a guy named John Hyatt.
Now, isn't he a professor of something or another?
He is a professor, that is correct.
Like of art or something like that?
I knew it, and as soon as you asked me, I can't remember what he's a professor
sorry about
of. But he was at the Rossendale Valley, which is in Lancashire, which is in England.
Mm-hmm.
And did I say that Lancashire
I
right?
think it's Lancashire.
Yeah.
Lancashire, thank you.
Yeah.
I knew I said it wrong as soon as I did it.
You of all people, Steve.
I know. According to Mr. Hyatt, the photographs, he didn't fake them. He didn't Photoshop them. They're completely real. And it's funny, but as I looked at these images, it kind of made me think back to all of the stories that I think we've all heard when we were kids about fairies. And I thought, well, let's take a look at the images, and at the same time, let's kind of look into fairies and see what the deal is, because they're a little weird. Because they're these itsy-bitsy things that fly around and do good deeds with wands. It's kind of strange.
And they come in all sizes, apparently. They're up to a foot tall.
Yeah.
Or they're the size of gnats, like in this picture.
Mm-hmm. That is very true.
They're not all good either.
No. I'm afraid they're not. So here, let me just give a brief description of the photos that we're talking about, because that'll kind of give everybody a little context.
Pictures, of course, on the website.
On the website,
Oh, yeah.
yes. And these are Hyatt's photos, and they show about a dozen or so little quote-unquote winged creatures flying about. They seem to have
Two arms and two legs.
two little human arms, two little human legs, and a little humanish head, and some insect wings.
And they are... the light is kind of shining towards the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a little...
They're backlit.
Distorted.
And they're in motion, so they're a little blurry.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to tell exactly what you're looking at.
This thing is like, by the way, just so, we're so anthropomorphizing fairies, because if they exist, they could just as easily look like jellyfish.
That's true.
Jellyfish with butterfly wings on them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They've been misunderstood for eons.
yeah, just these kind of gross flying creatures that just buzz along and then sting you.
Or maybe, mosquitoes are fairies.
That could be.
They are jerks. So at least in my opinion, the mosquitoes are.
They annoy
'Cause
the
they
hell out
bite
of
me.
me.
They're just trying to be friends with you.
Is that what it is? By
Yeah.
sucking the blood out of me?
Well,
And maybe occasionally leaving a parasite behind.
Jerks.
I
yeah,
know.
well,
Little flying jerks.
but they're fairies.
Well, that description, I mean, there's a number of photos, but that's kind of a good basic description of the photos, and that's all we know. That's all we see of them.
So anyway, but the internet is on fire over
the internet is
over fairies.
a Twitter about these fairies.
Yeah.
So before we get too much into the photos, let's kind of break down the fairies a little bit and some theories about what fairies are and where they come from.
Let's break down fairies.
Let's break down fairies underneath our shoe.
Mm-hmm.
There's basically, this is easy. There's two theories. They're real or they're not.
Yeah,
fair.
makes
yeah.
sense.
That's really, really easy.
Straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be that fairies are real, but just not on this planet.
Or
maybe they're
there's
real,
that.
but they don't have magical powers.
Okay,
Joe,
there's two theories.
you're getting way ahead, and there's 1,000 little theories. I'm putting these under this. Can we just go with the big headings of real or not real?
Yes.
And then that's followed by, well, if they're real, what the heck are they?
Yeah.
What are those little boogers?
Really?
Maybe bugs. But no, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. So as I was doing the research, evidently there's a lot of information on the internet about how to find fairies.
Okay.
Which I didn't realize there was so much out there for this particular mythical creature.
Google Maps.
Obviously. Yelp.
Yelp?
Yeah.
And Google Maps.
Yeah.
Is this one of their new side projects?
Probably.
Absolutely. Just go in there and type in pack of fairies and see what comes up.
All right. Well, what I've read says, first off, to find fairies, you have to actually believe in them.
Well, obviously.
So if you don't believe in them, you're out of luck.
Right.
Which might explain why I've never seen a fairy before. Because they won't show themselves to non-believers.
No.
I know, it's not right. And
it's
then
kind of like non-inclusive on their part.
Yeah.
It's kind of closed-minded.
Really, really single-minded. But no, and then only if you're at the right place at the right time will they show themselves.
Okay,
and
that
there's
makes sense.
There's very specific places that you have to be in order to see the fairies.
Okay, like where?
Well, there's a ring of toadstools.
Uh-huh.
This is going to be a lot of rings, by the way.
Okay.
A ring of toadstools, a ring of trees, a ring of dark grass. So you know how sometimes in your lawn you'll see that weird darker ring, and then the grass will grow taller. And I think Joe once commented that that's always where you find. How did you put that?
I always find a little deposit of dog poo in the center of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, which I don't know is from the fairies necessarily.
Probably not.
Maybe maybe they do. Maybe they just like. Only crap once
That's
a year.
their sewage system.
They crap once a year.
Oh,
and it's just,
my goodness.
Yeah.
That's just awful.
Anyway, a ring of stones. And one of the things about the rings is when I was doing all this reading is people really warn you not to go into the rings.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
It's kind of like the light, evidently, in Poltergeist. Don't go into the light because you go into the light, into the ring, and the fairies meet you, and you dance with the fairies, and I guess they take your mind to fairyland, and then your body will just stay there and rot and die.
Cool.
Oh.
I don't know.
I guess if you're off in fairyland, then what the hell?
Yeah, it's kind of, it really makes me think of Grimm's Tales kind of fairy tale. You know, it's, these
back in
lovely
the
little
days.
creatures. And by the way, those lovely little creatures kill you and then eat you.
Yeah.
It's from back in the days when fairy tales were a lot more edgy and dark.
Yeah.
Really, really just.
But, but anyway, you're safe to go into these rings if you don't believe in fairies because they won't show themselves to you.
That or if you mow them over with your lawnmower.
Yeah.
Hard to mow over rocks.
No, there's the rocks.
Yeah, but there are apparently other places to find fairies.
There
too.
are. So
I know when I was a kid, it was fairy houses, which are like big trees in the forest with like really big roots, kind of like more decrepit ones.
Oh, you mean
know
like the big exposed root systems, kind of on a knob or a knoll or something?
Or the ones that had fallen over or been cut over, and the like stumps were still there, and they were like really degraded with like lots of little holes that looked like doorways.
Yep.
That's the place to find fairies, right?
That is. That's
Okay.
totally one of the places.
Okay.
It's in old trees with big roots or these mounds or knobs. And it's great. They even say, oh, and if there's toadstools around it, you definitely know you found a fairy compound.
So, Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, because we have mushrooms all over.
Super easy to find that.
Because it's very wet.
Stuff, yeah.
The best answer ever that I found when I was looking for how to find fairies, the astral plane.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Because it's totally, that's right. They live on another plane of existence, which is why they're so hard to find.
Uh-huh.
Because we don't live there. Evidently, it's because they live there and we live here and they can cross over and so they can show themselves when they want. But I didn't quite get how the astral plane works.
Well,
nobody says how it works.
Well, because you clearly are just a simpleton who doesn't understand the ways of higher thinking on the astral planes.
Well,
it's not for you.
That could be, except that when I did some of the reading, it was saying that it might not be a bad thing that they live on the astral plane because not all fairies are really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, fairies supposedly steal children.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's totally believable.
Have you ever known a kid that was stolen by a fairy?
No.
Well,
I haven't
how would
either.
I know?
Maybe,
'Cause
I
they
don't
would,
know.
you know.
Well, yeah, that's it, because they're a changeling. You never know.
Yeah,
How would I
they
know?
get replaced. What do they replace them with? Somebody else's kid, or?
Well, this is where I kind of call hinky. I would say this theory is hinky.
This is where, okay.
All the other stuff we've said for the last 10 minutes, that's totally normal, but this is hinky. There's a lot of legends saying that fairies steal children, and what it is that evidently they come into a human's home, child, and they replace the baby with another fairy.
Oh, like a changeling fairy.
Yeah, it might be a sick fairy who needs somebody to take care of it, or just, I just want to take a couple weeks off the job, so I'm just going to stay here.
So, does that mean fairies look like babies, or they can just sort of, they're shapeshifters?
They're shapeshifters.
Yeah.
And it never says what they do with the baby.
Yeah, and they saw that. Yeah, they probably just feed them to the pigs or something. But now you saw that photograph that the good professor took, and the fairies look like they're about the size of gnats. So, do you know how many thousands of fairies it would take to lift that baby out of his crib and cart him off to fairyland?
No, that's where magic. I mean, okay, so here's just a very easy, accessible example of this. Is Peter Pan was kind of a fairy, but not really. But Tinkerbell was a fairy, and the whole lore behind Peter Pan, right, is that Tinkerbell came and found him as an abandoned child and shipped him off to Neverland with her, and he stopped growing up, just like the Lost Boys stopped growing up because they always come and take them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you just add a little fairy dust and you make that baby think happy thoughts, and they're gonna fly away with you.
Fairy dust. Why didn't I think of that?
I don't know.
Well, I think let's
because they're different. Yeah.
And what ties directly into that, Joe, when you're talking about they're too small to do anything, is the next thing that I looked into is, well, what do fairies look like?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we all see, when you look around at art of fairies, they're all very diminutive, with the little gossamer dragonfly wings, and they're
sexy little
itsy
outfit.
bitsy girls,
really beautiful long hair and weird colors.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, the thing is, fairies really weren't shown to have wings in any kind of illustration or stories until about the last 100 years. Prior to that, going back to the Peter Pan thing, they just flew around on their own.
Yeah.
They could just do it.
They were just magic.
So
magic.
When were the wings introduced?
About 100 years ago.
By whom?
I couldn't find out who first started showing fairies with wings and why that took off. It's got to be some turn-of-the-century illustrator who did it, and the printed book, everybody had more and more access to books, and so it took off. But I couldn't ever pin down who started that.
But maybe it has to do with the invention of the airplane. Suddenly they think, people
Wait, when was the airplane invented?
Early 20th century.
Okay, well, I guess that could kind of be right in the right time frame. That would make sense.
Yeah.
But, the other thing is, if we think about that typical fairy drawing, it always says that, like I said before, they're little diminutive things. So Tinkerbell.
Right.
We'll say Tinkerbell.
Yeah.
Itsy bitsy little flying person. Yeah, this is again according to historical legends or lore. The fairy people are of the lot that is called the little people. So they're actually not an inch or two high. They were more between 1 to 3 feet tall.
Yeah.
Which could explain how they could easily steal a baby. It's like, do you remember the movie Labyrinth?
Yeah.
And there was the baby?
The babe?
The babe.
The babe with the power?
Yes.
The power
that
of
one.
voodoo?
Yes.
Voodoo? Do what?
Yeah.
Remind me of the babe?
That one.
Okay.
Well, you remember all of the little creatures that were in that movie, and they were,
the little Jim Henson guys.
Yeah, they were all kind of ugly looking, but they were, a little bit bigger than the baby, maybe a lot bigger than the baby, but they were in that range. Well, according to legend and lore, that's more of what the little people were.
They're kind of like nasty little leprechauns, huh?
They're on the order of elves and goblins and all of those.
There's a name for those. It's
the Elementaries.
Yeah. Because they're not elementals, but they are like...
They are of the cast of Elementaries.
Yeah.
So Elementaries are like what? Spirits left over from the ancient world?
No, Elementaries are more of critters that do things on Earth. So fairies are kind of for the Earth. And then leprechauns had something different. Elves did something for the forests. And there's like 9 or 12 casts of Elementaries.
And they're mostly kind of littler.
Yeah, they're all the little people.
Yeah.
They're all these little diminutive critters that look like people but hide in nature. And so we don't see them unless they, good or bad reason, decide to show themselves to us.
That's why, when you go camping sometimes and you get up in the morning and your food's been raided. It's those things. Because,
I thought that was raccoons.
Or bears.
Well, they always say it's raccoons.
Raccoons might be elementaries.
Yeah, Elementaries.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Could be.
For all we know, they're a little human-like. Kinda.
Yeah, well, and I think, we just hit on the other thing, which is, again, we were talking about in that typical illustration, the fairies are beautiful and, have perfect skin and glowing, but really, according to this, they're kind of ugly critters.
Yeah.
And sourpuss. The sourpuss face is what I always think of when I think of the ones from Labyrinth, and I think that's where they're headed.
It's like the evolution of so many things towards these. Like if you look at angels in the Old Testament, they were scary creatures.
Totally
now angels are so wonderful.
Yeah, we talked
and
about that a week
benevolent.
or two ago.
Yeah, and now they're wonderful creatures who just want to spread love and fairy dust throughout the world.
Yeah, like the cherubs versus.
Wait, huh? Wait, you lost me here. Yeah, I know what a cherub is. But...
Right, but they didn't really exist until kind of the Middle Ages. The idea of a cherub.
Okay.
And of the really cute baby with wings.
Ah.
As the angel cherub archetype, right?
Yeah, was that somebody that's just some medieval artist who first invented that whole thing?
I have no idea. That's
probably
another...
propaganda.
Yeah.
The next kind of vein that I came across when I was doing the research on fairies. Turns out the fairies really love the British.
Well, they do lots of
Or the
things.
British love the fairies.
Lots of
One
circle
of the two.
stuff in England.
There is.
And the food's not very good.
So they got
and older, they've got a lot of abandoned areas.
Got a lot of
People have
history.
been there for a really long time.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of places that, like say the Middle East. If you were a fairy, would you want to go take up residence in, say, Saudi Arabia?
Well,
Or
it's pretty
the
dry. There's no
lush, awesome
toadstools.
forests of England where it's rainy all the time and nobody's gonna tromp over you because who goes outside there?
Yeah, it's wet outside. Why would I go outside? I'm just going to stay in the house all day.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of
Which is
surprised we don't see them around here because it's fairly moist and foresty around here.
Well, it's because you don't believe Joe.
Oh, well, there's that, but nobody else seems to either.
You don't know.
Yeah, they could be all around.
Yeah, usually when I see rings of mushrooms in the forest, I pick them.
Right. Yeah, because that's what most people do. That's why. It's because we do things like that here. So the fairies are like, oh, we can't be here anymore.
I think I've discovered the next environmental cause is we're destroying fairy habitat.
We are.
Endangered species.
If that was going to fly anywhere, it would fly in Portland.
Yeah,
it really would fly in this state. You're absolutely right.
I think we're going to have to work on a website and start getting some publicity.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that we want that publicity. But no, so evidently the British Isles are overrun with fairies, and by that I mean Britain, Ireland, and Scotland, all of that area.
The United Kingdom.
The entire United Kingdom area.
Not Ireland, though.
Not Ireland?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
That's
that
part of the British Isles.
You're talking about Ireland also, then?
Yes, I'm looping that entire area.
Some of the outlying islands also, like the Isle of Man? Yeah.
All of it. Because according to some reports, and these were, I believe, a report at the BBC did this, and good on them for taking the time to look into this. But evidently, that area is covered in what they refer to as good paranormal areas, which are run by fairies and ghosts. And I guess a good paranormal area is where there's a helpful creature that you can't see. So one of the stories that I read was there was some house and there was some road that was really confusing, and people would always get lost. And they would stop at this house and they would knock on the door, and a friendly old butler would answer the door and they'd say, "Hi, I'm lost. I'm trying to get to wherever." And he would say, "No problem. Take this and that and this and that and be on your way." And they would go. Well, that house was deserted. Nobody lived in the house. So that was a good paranormal area because it was the good entities that were being the butler for these people to find their way. Devin's giving me a really kind of dirty look. I don't think she believes this story.
I don't. Yeah. Sorry. I believe in fairies and I believe in ghosts, but that story, for some reason, I just don't believe.
I have heard stories like that too.
Oh yeah, we've all heard them.
Tend not to believe them, but you know.
So the reporter who did the research here, though, they went through 25 years of police reports. So these were things that were filed with the police. Yeah, these are all supernatural. There's a huge number of supernatural events, and by huge, I mean 755 reports to the police. Only 44 of which were related to fairies. I mean, the rest were all ghosts and witches and Casper, somebody, I don't know. But 44 of them were fairies. So obviously they like that area.
That or
apparently
people in that area are prone to reporting, quote, paranormal activity.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when you wander the forest and you start randomly eating mushrooms.
Yeah.
You start reporting stuff.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
I mean, like everybody at some point in their life has something happen to them and they're like, whoa, that was super weird, right?
Oh, yeah.
Not very many people have that, whoa, that was super weird moment, and then go, I better call the police and file a report.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just that this area...
Well, but I think the thing is that here we're much more prone to getting in trouble for calling the cops for what are considered inane reports.
That's true. A cop probably wouldn't even file. They'd be like, "Okay, ma'am. Okay, you saw a ghost."
Whereas there, a Bobby is like, "Okay, I'll report this."
Okay.
Says saw fairy that gave him a beer.
I think actually, if you called 911 and reported the fairy, they'd send a SWAT team and they'd fill its ass.
That's
they'd
probably
fill its ass
true.
full of lead.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, let's go on to this gets more into the what are fairies.
Okay.
This next bit that I've come across, which is freaking awesome. They're aliens. I think that's freaking awesome.
Amazing.
I know. Go ahead and say it. I know. What is the people who look into aliens?
Ufologists.
Yep, I knew you'd want to talk about your ufologists.
But those aren't people who look into aliens. Those are people who look into UFOs.
Well, but aren't UFOs
ancient alienologists.
Okay.
Alienologists.
But that would actually...
I'm sorry. I'm trying to come up with a good term that we can use.
Yeah, it's not working. It's okay.
Sorry, but it would explain a lot.
It would, but here's how the folks that propose that fairies are actually aliens, and this is it's a fuzzy line that they run. We've all heard the phrase extraterrestrial, which means that it's something not from Earth coming here, or not from Earth, and presumably is here, and we meet it. Of this universe. Well, according to this theory, the fairies are ultra-terrestrials.
What is an ultra-terrestrial?
Yeah, that took me a while to kind of wrap my head around.
Actually, I think I'm kind of an ultra-terrestrial.
No.
Just because I'm so ultra-terrestrial.
Okay. Here's how this runs. As humans, we evolved on this planet. We've always considered ourselves to be the most intelligent and the only intelligent species on the planet. There's another species that evolved here either before us or alongside us, and that species is the ultra-terrestrials.
Oh, the lizard people.
No, not the lizard people.
Are you sure? Because that
no,
sounds like the
I'm
lizard
not sure.
people.
I'm not sure.
You never. They could actually have evolved before us and actually nudged humanity along on its course towards evolution.
You sound like an ancient alien theorist.
An ancient alien ufologist. Yeah.
Oof, no, that's
Oh,
just
can we not have
UFOs.
that argument again?
No.
Come on, let me keep going here.
Okay,
you guys are
fine.
gonna just spiral down the rabbit
You're
hole.
on a roll, fine.
Wasn't really, but so the ultra terrestrials, this other species, they're more intelligent than we are, and they've evidently mastered the ability to hide themselves from us, at least for the most part. Maybe it's accident that we see them, or maybe they intentionally show themselves. I don't know. And there is a lot of historical writing that references supernatural beings that, and I'm quoting here, supernatural beings seemingly superior to humans have been reported throughout history, and in previous eras, they were called gods, angels, ogres, fairies, brownies, little peoples, demons, and more.
Yeah, that, I mean, we talk about this every once in a while, particularly with our out of place and out of time artifacts, that, you know, proof is fairly strong that there was something here that was, you know, whether it was us just, you know, forgetting about our history or whatever.
It's always possible.
But, I don't know, maybe they made Gobekli Tepe.
Maybe, but here's where the fairies specifically come in.
Okay.
With this theory is we won't say they're ufologists, but the people who follow this point out similarities between aliens and fairies in kind of all of the general lore that we know.
Okay.
So aliens have little butterfly wings?
No, not exactly.
They do fly, though.
Not exactly.
Oh.
Okay. Aliens tend to be the cause of lost time, and so do fairies. Which again, this is that thing where you go into the fairy ring, or people will chase fairies or will-o'-the-wisp. Will-o'-wisp, is that the correct phrase? I believe the little glowing guys in the forest that people will chase that run them to their demise.
Okay.
We're both looking at you blankly. But sure, yeah, they're
it's
will-o'-wisps.
Okay,
sure.
Will of the Wisp.
Yeah, one of the two.
Will o' the Wisp. Yeah.
So there's the lost time bit. Aliens are usually described as being shorter than us with big, large eyes.
Yeah.
And fairies tend to be described that way too.
Okay.
And evidently some aliens use quote-unquote power rods.
Oh, those are tasers.
They use tasers to incapacitate people, which fairies use their magic wands, so that could be the same thing. So according to these people, there's all these similarities of why aliens are actually fairies and fairies are actually ultra-terrestrials, and we just haven't figured it out.
Fair. Hoaxes.
Hoaxes is exactly right, because hoaxes are where we're going next.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about all this fairies are real theories.
Yeah.
And I realize I almost said that in a dismissive tone, which was not my intention.
Sorry, fairies.
I admit that I don't
He's the one that
personally
said it, not
believe in
me.
them.
Please, don't take it out of me.
No miniature horse heads in my bed.
No, please no.
But no, there have been a slew of hoaxes through the years involving fairies, which really makes me question these particular photos by Mr. Hyatt. And there's two hoaxes that I want to bring to the front specifically.
There was one very famous one.
There was one, and that's the first one that we're going to talk about. The first one I want to talk about is the Coventry fairies.
Coventry fairies or Cottingley fairies?
Cottingley fairies. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
I don't know where Coventry came from, but it's Cottingley.
You're just thinking about England.
It's yeah.
Well,
That and figgy pudding.
They're thick over there.
That and figgy pudding. And what's the blood pudding? Blood porridge? What is
Blood
that?
pudding.
Yeah,
blood, yeah.
that one, which I've never eaten, by the way.
Oh, it's so good.
It
Is
really
it?
looks
Yeah.
gross.
Sounds kind of. I assume it's not actually made of blood. What's it made of?
It is actually made
Like
of
fairy blood.
Make believe blood.
All right. The Cottingley fairies were, this is a hoax. Okay, we know this is a hoax now, but it was a series of 5 photographs that were put out by 2 young women, and they started in 1917, and they were cousins, and I think they were 9 and 16 when they did their first photos. And they supposedly, using their parents' camera, photographed themselves with fairies, and these photos started making the rounds. Eventually, were found by none other than Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yeah.
Oh.
He was kind of into that whole
spiritualism
and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. So he kind of embarrassed himself with that whole thing.
He did, and you know what the sad part is that he believed him. He wanted to believe him.
Right.
He sent somebody out. They took a look at the fairy photos. They went out with the girls in the woods. They reported back, "Yes, sir, I think these are real." He then turns around and he publishes an article that was in it was a publication, which I can't tell if it was a magazine or a newspaper, but it was called The Strand.
Yeah.
And then he followed that with a book which he titled The Coming of the Fairies.
Is that a good or a bad thing? Are they coming to kick our ass and take our world away from us?
We don't know, but unfortunately, the images were eventually admitted to be fakes.
That was a long time, though.
Yeah,
before.
no, because I don't know how anybody thought they were real. Let me kind of walk through what's going on here before we just let the cat out of the bag. So they were paper cutouts from a book called The Princess Mary's Gift Book. And these little cutouts were about 6 inches high, and these girls literally just with a pair of scissors cut them out of the book.
And then posed with them.
And then posed with them, and they put them on hat pins, like against a tree or in a plant, or maybe holding them in their hand. And I guess maybe if you're in 1920s England, it's easier to believe.
I guess, part of that is the, Photoshop stuff, right? Or if you watch, a movie from the 70s, right? An action movie, where there's all this, special effects stuff, and you're like, wow, that's awful. And you talk to somebody, maybe Joe will remember this, who saw that at the time and was like, whoa, those special effects are awesome.
Yeah, no,
because
definitely.
that's what you think.
Yeah.
You think that's
It's
the height of it.
You don't know what a fake looks like.
And I look at
always
these, of
raising the
course,
curve.
and I just say, wow, those are so fake. They look so fake.
Yeah.
But I can also understand that, faking photos wasn't really a thing at the time, and people would just kind of. And who would think that a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old girl would fake pictures like this, or have the ingenuity to fake something that way?
Kids never pull pranks or anything like that.
And here's the thing. You know when they finally admitted that they faked them?
It wasn't until the 80s.
Yeah, it was 1983 when they finally fessed up and said that they had faked those images. So this whole time they were saying, oh, yeah, they were real. But to the girls' credit, which I guess actually it's these ladies at this point, when they finally admitted that they had faked the whole thing, they faked them because they were embarrassed. Because they were doing it for a laugh. They were goofing around, and suddenly famous Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and his people show up, and oh my gosh, you've got to show us these fairies. And
it's embarrassing.
We just totally faked that, dude.
Dude,
It just doesn't seem.
It's a Photoshop, dude. Can't you tell?
People have really fallen into some really bad situations because you're embarrassed to admit, oh no, I totally faked that.
Yeah, I guess the other thing for me is that the little fairies are so stylized 1920s. You look at them and you're like, wow, they look like they're exactly fashionable for the 1920s.
Well, I mean,
they're wearing
fashion
flappers.
changes for fairies too,
They're wearing flapper dresses with bobs, and literally look like flappers who just happen to have wings.
But it's
kind of like,
and there's a white outline around them
when they're cut up. But
it's a glow.
it's a glow.
The other thing is that Princess Mary's Gift Book. I mean, maybe it was kind of a bomb, and not very many people saw it.
But you would think somebody would have seen it and recognized it.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the thing of the 20s, right? Versus now. Now somebody would have been reverse Google searching that immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Whereas in the 1920s, you'd be like, wow, maybe, one person might say, oh, I think I saw those.
Well, and here's the other thing, and this is to maybe give credit to these folks for buying into it, is a lot of the lore of fairies said that fairies dressed the way everybody else in that contemporary time
Yeah.
dressed.
That's how they blend in.
That's how they. So in the 1600s, they were wearing the green Robin Hood hat or whatever might be. You know, the big 1700 style dresses with the bell shapes.
We need to have a serious conversation about historical fashion.
Do I look like I know fashion? I'm wearing shorts and a T-shirt and flip-flops.
I'm
I have
also
no
wearing-
fashion sense.
Also wearing shorts and a T-shirt. And
But
flip-flops.
the point is, they would wear clothes of the era that they were in.
So
So
if we
that
found
might
some-
have helped people buy into it. The fashion of the era. Is that better, Devin?
No, it's fine. I'm still laughing about this Peter Pan
So-
Robin Hood hat thing that you're trying
Yeah.
to describe. I literally have no frame of reference for what you're
I know.
talking
I don't
about.
have a favorite. I don't have to. We're talking about fairies.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah, so anyway, so if we found them around here, they're going to be dressed like hipsters.
Skinny
They'd have
jeans.
PBRs and beards.
Yeah.
And little fairy mustaches.
That sounds right.
I think I see a good movie.
Yeah, that's right up there with Sharknado.
Yeah, I'm going to call Arnold tomorrow.
Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, Arnold, I have a good movie for you. I've scrolled it on the back of a napkin. You flesh it out and send me $1 million.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the other fake that I want to bring up. And this one's actually pretty modern, and it's pretty bad. Did either of you look at the images of this particular fake? This fake is from Guadalajara in 2011.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
It's okay. So here's the story. This is a blatant fake, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm just going to preface it right off the bat.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
But it's a bricklayer who claims that he was out picking fruit one day and he found a fairy. And he caught it. And being a nice guy, what did he do? He instantly threw it into a jar of formaldehyde to preserve it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's questionable behavior, but we're going to leave that alone.
But here's the whole thing. I mean, most of us, obviously don't go out to pick fruit carrying a jar of formaldehyde.
You know,
In
I
fact-
don't normally have that with me, no.
Even if I grabbed a fairy and took it home, I don't have any formaldehyde at home either.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing.
Anyway.
There's a video, there's news footage of this, and they show the jar with the fairy in it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that fairy is obviously a toy. It's very
Yeah.
obviously like a superhero kind of cheap double arm kind of toy. I mean, cast solid red and yellow,
Yeah.
but really cheap and
Yeah.
translucent.
Yeah.
And it is sitting on the bottom, and you can tell the wings are just pinned to the back of it, and they're plastic as well. And people went nuts for it.
Yeah.
Who says Mexicans don't have a sense of humor? I mean, but the thing about it is people go nuts for all that stuff. Like somebody finds the Virgin Mary's likeness on a piece of toast, you know.
Mhm.
And then somebody pays $5,000 for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People
And then it
just want
molds.
to believe this stuff really, really badly.
Yeah. No, you know, I actually, and this is the funny thing, I wanted to prove definitively what toy that was, and I spent hours on the internet scrolling through toys that would have come out at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't find it. Really frustrated me. It looked like it would be something from The Incredibles or the Super Friends, not Super Friends,
Super
but
Best Friends?
the Justice Leagues or
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that. But I couldn't find who it was. But it looked like something from Ben 10. That's where I bet it was.
I think it's X-Men.
Is it an X-Men?
Let's see.
Well, no, see, but the body was yellow and the arms and legs were red.
Yeah, but
which
if
makes
it
me think
was-
Ben 10. But
Oh, there's a lot of... Okay, first of all, let's talk about the fact that you know Ben 10. Put that
does
out
that
there.
does that weird you out a little
It's a
bit?
little weird. But I guess, you know, like knockoff X-Men toys often have the like weird different colors or
Yeah, they're not right on purpose.
Yeah.
But if
no.
you look through literally millions of photographs of toys and couldn't find it, maybe that means it really was a fairy.
A plastic
this is what
fairy?
fairies actually look like.
Fairies hit formaldehyde and instantly turn to plastic.
Well,
That's what the toy industry is based on.
yeah, but it wasn't necessarily plastic. It was probably just rigor mortis had set in since it had been stuffed in formaldehyde and killed by that guy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
She was just preserved in that way.
Okay. You know what? I'm willing to run with that.
Yeah.
We're just going to go with that.
So it's a dead fairy.
It's a dead fairy.
Dead fairy.
Yes, believe.
It's a hoax.
Believe,
Yeah.
everybody.
Everybody believe. Clap your hands if you believe.
Boom, boom, boom.
Clap harder. she's dying.
She's dead.
Do you believe in fairies? I do. Somebody will get my references someday.
That's a Peter Pan.
Okay.
It's,
Yes.
I know
So
where that
let's
reference
keep
comes
going.
from.
Where are we going next?
Yeah, so let's conclude this.
Let's conclude it. Let's get back to
Those photographs.
Hyatt's photos.
Okay.
Okay, so we've talked.
Are you saying that all those bugs or those fairies he photographed were just tiny little cardboard cutouts? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I'm not actually.
Oh, okay.
So here's what I did is I started looking at what Hyatt said, and then I started looking at the photos, and then I started doing my research. And I'm not the only one who's done this research, so I'm not the one the only one that's come to this conclusion.
Sure.
But let's walk through this. Is that Hyatt claims that he has photographed many insects, and he says that the creatures that he shot, they're not bugs. So, of course, they must be fairies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I can see what he means. I can see what he's saying.
Are you saying you don't believe in fairies?
But I also think that he's saying the same thing Joe said at the beginning of the show, which is he's anthropomorphizing these things. Oh, I'm putting these human characteristics on them.
Yeah, I don't totally agree with the assertion that they're not bugs.
You still think they're fairies?
No, I don't agree with the assertion that they're not bugs.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood what you were saying.
Yeah.
I got it. We're on the same page then.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this guy is saying that, I've photographed many insects, and these aren't insects. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
these are
dude.
not an insect.
I know what
photographed before.
I know what insect looks like.
Yeah,
This is not insect.
I know, there's this, how many millions of different insects are there in the world?
Gazillions.
Yeah.
Gazillions.
Yeah,
Which is a real
seriously.
number.
Yeah.
In my head.
Oh.
If you take a look at the photos from Hyatt and you look at the arms and the legs of the